Are you ready for some football? Whether you are or not may actually depend upon your politics, especially with a novel coronavirus canceling all sporting events for months. But believe it or not, what kind of football fan or sports fan you are has a lot of similarities in how voting behavior and political participation occurs in America outside of a football stadium or your favorite couch. Would you believe that there are actually some people who actually do not care anything at all about sports and football? It's almost un-American, right? They don't care about the stats, who won the game, who is playing in the Super Bowl, or have a team in a fantasy football league. And guess what? Those are just like your apathetic voters who don't even register to vote, which is about 1/3 of us in the last midterm. But despite pandemic crisis, believe it or not, one poll suggested 74% of Americans are excited about voting in November. Excited. That's a pretty strong feeling for an election. But don't be too surprised, because back in 2016, Americans had become the most divided in politics in a very long time. But what was significant was the fact that Americans were not divided simply on party or even ideology and issues, but more on personal feelings about their party's nominee, or more about the other party's choice of nominee. And it was more personal in a transaction where their anger had nothing to do with what they had been worked up to be angry about. And that is a lot like our participation in spectator sports. Chances are that you are not a professional football player. You're not going to get paid at the end of the game. But the odds are high that you participated in some sport while you were in college or high school. So you have some sort of simpatico experience. But even still, for some of us, watching a game is limited to special occasions, as little as once or twice per year for some, while for others, on the other extreme, have season tickets and may well attend every game. And most, when they arrive at a game in a stadium, or even when watching on television, or in their home or at a bar or wherever, have some level of interest in the outcome of that particular contest, with the level of participation positively correlated to the level of interest in that particular outcome. Have you ever met someone who chose a team simply because they liked their uniform? They liked the design on the logo. The team colors were their favorite color. Depending on your level of interest in the game or that particular contest, you might describe that as wholly irrational as a process. But imagine if that sports fan, probably a first-timer, was a voter. And given the description, probably someone who also decided to give voting a try for the very first time. And more likely than not, that first-time spectator or that first-time voter was somebody's customer. Somebody went out and recruited that customer. Nobody just happens to do anything in life for no reason at all. And that person who recruited that voter or spectator or customer probably has some level of interest in getting that person to become a sports fan or a voter and return to that couch at that sporting venue again. And chances of success in that effort are going to be related to that first-time experience. So, in that sale, yes, it's actually a sales transaction, has to come off just right, and failure is not an option. Maybe it was a date. Somebody that you met online or in a bar. And that significant other has to make sure that his or her better half has an experience that transfers their enthusiasm for attending that game. In a stadium, sitting in a bar or on a couch, surrounded by favorite snack foods, or whatever makes that sports fan experience special to them. Most voters, believe it or not, are just like those scouts who recruit those first-time spectators of sports. And then you have to go through that same process. If you're a strong supporter of your local political organization, you're probably going to remain in contact with that new voter to make sure he or she comes out again and again to vote for your candidates. And the same for a political candidate who wants to attract a charismatic following of dedicated campaign workers working for him or her. And marketers call that transaction creating a value experience, probably tied to some conception of fulfilling a need, which even for an economist could actually be described as a rational decision in choice for profit maximizing conduct. But while it may make sense to attend a football game because you like to sit in the stadium, raining or not, or share moments with your friends, boring or not, or even put on your team colors as a voter, how much sense does it make to go through all of that effort, recruiting new sports fans, going all the way to the stadium, or going through all of the game preparations if you just want a great social life? You know? And many of your more dedicated political activists tend to have a greater stake in the outcome tied to some particular issue, or even ideology, or even some financial incentive by increasing the chance that for that first-time voter will graduate to become a loyal donor to the campaign war chest as well. So they can keep on doing it forever and ever and ever into eternity. And the interesting thing in campaigns is that it has been found that there are only really just 3 types of donors, ranging from low to high, and all based upon an expectation of a return on investment in a particular transaction. Very particular lot, not general at all. And more likely than not, a low dollar donor tends to be that guy or girl who just wants to do his or her part and participates in the electoral process. As much as we like to believe that issues matter in elections, the fact is that a candidate can only expect to max out on $100 from that true believer or naive sports fan. That is the financial worth of your values in politics. And if you can increase volume of small dollar donors as a fundraiser, you might have a good cash cow, as marketers say. But don't ever expect, as a donor, to actually see change, either in the outcome of that election, where over 90% of incumbents are guaranteed a job for life, or in fixing that problem that you spent all day on social media engaging about. You got what you paid for. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing more came from your investment, and probably less than you expected. You woke up surprised, and you'll continue to wake up surprised again and again and again. And personally, a rational, profit-maximizing person does not keep going to a stadium to watch their team lose again and again, unless you root for the Mets. The next level of donor is the medium range, who will spend as much as $500. More likely than not, is more interested in getting entertained than saving the world. He or she likes to go to social gatherings, drink cocktails, schmooze with bigwigs, take selfies, and attend black tie galas. And If the world becomes a better place, oh, that's good for the world, but not expected. It's a tangible reward transaction, rationally calculated, but short-term in gratification. And how about the big money sports fans in politics? The guys in the box seats in the club rooms of politics, willing to spend $1,000 or more for a particular game. While there may be a very select few who have so much discretionary income, more money than Davy Crockett, as Forrest Gump said, they can just give away money like there is no tomorrow. To be a great altruistic benefactor, expecting nothing in return. Just about every political fundraiser knows that most of your big money in politics is not value-driven voter participation, but rather a rationally calculated transaction focused on access, seeking to maximize their return, not for some intangible value, never to be actualized, nor an instant gratification of taking selfies for social purposes in your formal attire on the red carpet event line. And if you really don't want to wake up surprised after an election, you only have one vote to win the lottery, more likely than not, you have to become a fat cat with a huge expense account to change the world. Or don't despair. As Jesse Jackson actually recommended to the Republican Party for recruiting voters of color back in 1980s, develop a strategy to keep one political party from taking you for granted and to prevent the other political party from writing you off. If you're ever invited to a poker game and don't know who the sucker is, it's probably you in politics. And unless you just like waving a flag, doing the wave with your friends and all of the things that sports fans do in a stadium, get drunk, you're never gonna be that football hero or that champion for your dedicated work. You're just on Fantasy Island, living a dream. And that's just the way the game is played. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress with liberty, honor, and excellence. By God, we shall make America great again. Honest.
This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.